Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank my colleague for his speech. I will be echoing a lot of the same points that he has made, and I think that it is a critical time. This is important. It's important for the young people around this country to know what kind of future they're going to have. And I think he's lined it out very well, and I think this week, I think, will be critically important in terms of the decisions that we make as a country. In May, the Senate passed the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act by a vote of 98-1. We don't see too many 98-1 votes in this chamber. 66 senators co-sponsored this legislation. The principal reason for this overwhelming bipartisan support was the desire to give Congress, the voice of the people, the opportunity to weigh in on the president's agreement with Iran. We've been working together now for 4 months across the aisle to ensure that the opportunity for Congress to review this government comes forward. And yet I am severely disappointed, as my colleague expressed, severely disappointed that 42 of our colleagues have now voted twice to deny the Senate the ability to take a simple up or down vote on this very important resolution. A simple vote to say exactly how you feel, to make sure everybody in the country and in your state knows your opinion, and yet 42 of them are blocking that simple vote. Iran's supreme leaders even said earlier this month that he expects Iran's parliament to vote on whether their country will approve the nuclear agreement. At the very least, we should have that up or down vote. Certainly, this agreement is also worthy of this vote. Our constituents expect us to vote on this matter. Multiple national surveys have shown that the Iran nuclear agreement is opposed by either a plurality or a majority of the American people. And any support that this agreement had is beginning, if you look at the national polling, is disintegrating. A recent poll in my state showed that opponents of this deal outnumber supporters by a margin of 3-1. And yet I'm not going to have the opportunity to vote my vote of disapproval of this agreement because of the obstructionism of the other side. In fact, when President Obama said that there was strong support for this deal among lawmakers and citizens, the Washington Post fact checker awarded him 3 Pinocchios. Well, we all know what Pinocchio was famous for, and that's the growing nose when he wasn't quite telling the truth. 3 Pinocchios. That's a lot of skepticism about the president's statements. There's bipartisan opposition to the Iran nuclear agreement in Congress, but only partisan and tepid support. Our colleagues in the House of Representatives voted last week on a resolution approving this agreement. That resolution received only 162 votes, all from the Democrat Party. There was opposition by 260 House members, including 25 Democrats. Here in the Senate, 4 Democrats joined with Republicans to support moving forward on an up and down vote on this resolution of disapproval. It's important to recognize the depth of bipartisan opposition to the president's agreement with Iran. Many of the Democrats who have been opposing this deal have tremendous experience in foreign policy matters. In the House of Representatives, the ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, the ranking Democrat member of the Appropriations Committee, and the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Middle East and Northern Africa all voted against approving this agreement. Here in the Senate, the former chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and the committee's current ranking member are among the Democrats who have opposed this agreement. They have joined Republicans on the floor in seeking an up or down vote on this agreement. The senior Democrat foreign policy leaders and every Republican in both chambers of Congress oppose this deal, and we have made our reasons clear. The president's agreement fails to make America safer, quite simply. It is not likely to eliminate, and it will not eliminate, Iran's path to a nuclear weapon, and the agreement will hurt the security situation that is rapidly deteriorating in the Middle East, especially in Israel. We still have not seen the side agreements. There's 2 side agreements between the IAEA and Iran. We have not seen those. We don't know what's in them. We're supposed to have seen everything. And these side agreements, we think, include important provisions about the inspection of suspected Iranian nuclear sites. We already know that Iran will have the ability to delay inspections and that access to other sites for more than 3 weeks. We were supposed to get anytime, anywhere inspections. This benchmark severely falls short of that. The combination of the cash from sanctions relief, we hear anywhere from $50 billion to $150 billion. So like my colleague, I'll go right in the middle and say $100 billion. The end of the arms embargo in 5 years, the end of the international restrictions on ballistic missile program in 8 years will just strengthen Iran's ability to cause trouble in the Middle East and around the world. Think about it. I think about this. The country of Iran with another $100 billion. They've already, under the sanctions that have been imposed, they've already expressed concern about the health and welfare of their people. And yet, even under that sanction domain, they still are fomenting terror around the Middle East. What are they going to do with $100 billion? I think it's pretty clear what their intentions would be. International sanctions that have helped bring Iran to the negotiating table will be difficult to snap back into place in the event of a violation of the agreement. Nothing snaps anywhere quickly here in Washington, D.C., and sanctions can't snap back. That defies reason. This will lessen our leverage to ensure Iran's compliance. Despite these serious flaws, it appears, based on the 2 failed cloture votes that the Senate has taken this for, that a partisan majority is prepared to thwart the bipartisan majority and move forward with the agreement. Leader McConnell has filed an amendment that would block sanctions relief until Israel both recognizes Israel's right to exist and releases American political prisoners. While that amendment will not cure the flaws of the Iran agreement, it does represent common sense policy that should receive overwhelming support. Regardless of their views on the substance of the nuclear agreement, I think most Americans would agree that before we provide tens of billions of sanctions relief to Iran, that the Iranian government should have to recognize Israel's right to exist and should release our 4 American political prisoners. Just last week, as the Senate was debating the nuclear agreement, Iran's supreme leader posted on Twitter his very view that Israel would not exist in 25 years. That underscores again what a serious threat Iran is to our most important U.S. ally, and that is Israel. Even proponents of the nuclear agreement have recognized that Israel is likely to use some of the funds they receive from sanction relief to strengthen their military and continue to finance terrorism. If this windfall is going to be provided to Iran, then ensuring Iran recognizes Israel's right to exist is the least we can ask. Equally important is the securing of the release of our 4 American political prisoners held by Iran. I get this question at home all the time. Why was this not part of the bargaining? Why were we not asking for the release of our Americans before we went forward? And frankly, I don't think the administration's answered that question. I don't have the answer to that question. And tomorrow we're going to have the opportunity to express our wishes. We should not provide valuable sanctions relief to Iran without bringing our citizens home. The Senate will have the opportunity to decide whether to move forward with the McConnell amendment tomorrow. Those who have prevented a vote on the merits of the nuclear agreement have it in their power to block a vote on the McConnell amendment. But let's be clear what that would mean. If a minority of the Senate blocks a vote on the McConnell amendment, then they will allow the president to provide sanction reliefs to Iran without securing Israel's right to exist and without the release of our Americans. I believe that the president's agreement with Iran should be rejected by the Senate, and we're going to have another opportunity to vote on cloture to allow the Senate to take a true up or down vote on that agreement. But even my colleagues who support the nuclear agreement should vote to protect Israel and bring our Americans home before providing that sanctions relief. I hope my colleagues will re-examine their positions on cloture and allow the Senate to do what we were sent here to do. That's to take the tough votes, to let people know how we feel, to show our commitment and our passion, and to have our voices and their voices be heard. With that, I yield the floor. Thank you.